Imagine you're battling against Maxi at Mount Chimney, his camera uses magnitude and the entire volcano erupts. That's exactly what's happening today, but then against 11 other competent competitors instead of Maxi. In this month-long tourney we did one battle each week with a new field, all having a bunch of crazy effects, and the top 8 battled it out in single elimination brackets to determine the champion. This is the Chromatic Draft League, aka competitive Pokemon, but the environment actually matters. Since this is a draft league, we got to choose 11 or 12 Pokemon at the start, from which we could make a team of 6 each week to best deal with our opponent's roster of Pokemon. I'll put my Pokemon on the screen right now, but explaining all of them will be way too boring, so let's just jump right into the first battle. This is already a great example of how these fields work. For example, some effects may make bad abilities a lot better, like how on this week's Sky field, Early Bird now grants a speed boost. My opponent's Landorus Therian was his only electric and ground resist, so Kangaskhan outspeeding to do big damage really frees up my Landorus Incarnate and Tapu Koko. Ice Punch even got a freeze, putting me in an amazing position turn 1, but the Phione was still pretty annoying. Yes, Phione. Besides fields, there are also crests in this league, items that give specific Pokemon great buffs. In this case, Phione gets a 50% boost to both defenses and some passive recovery. At some point I got in my Life Orb Landorus, which could have two-shot it if I didn't forget to give it sheer force, so I missed out on a 30% damage boost. Tailglow Manaphy still put in a lot of work, but eventually the feared Urshifu got sent out, holding a Prism skill. Similar to Terrain Seeds, Prism skills are one-time use items that give some kind of boost unique to each field. In this case, it drops the holder's defenses, but sets up a Tailwind that lasts for 5 turns on this field as well. This could have been very threatening if I didn't have my own way of setting up Tailwind with Prankster Murkrow. That sealed the game, allowing my Sandforce Landorus to clean up the remaining Pokemon for my first win of the season. Moving from high up in the sky, we're going way down into the caves for week 2. This meant Drapion's battle armor granted it +1 defense, although the more annoying thing about this Drapion was the toxic spikes it set up. I could remove these by switching in my poison type Venusaur, but it was already in and I kinda threw it away against the opposing Hydreigon. This was also when I found out that the levitating Hydra was holding a Float Stone, giving it 25% extra speed on the field, letting it outspeed my Landorus, Tapu Koko and Cinderace. Nonetheless, I expected a switch against Tapu Koko, forgetting that Hydreigon has access to Earth Power for the near knockout, making my Volt Switch a pretty awful play here. I also discovered it has Roost for recovery. This is not looking good. My one chance here was sweeping with Float Stone Tailglow Manaphy. Shedinja seemed like a way to deal with it, but I came prepared with Ancient Power and all the other Pokemon were one-shots with Surf or Ice Beam, but the poison from Toxic Spikes was slowly chipping me down, eventually putting me in range of Scissor's Bullet Punch. Because of this, I expected my opponent to try to bait an Ice Beam with Hydreigon, switch into Scissor to tank it, and finish me off with Bullet Punch. So to predict that, I went for a Surf, but they predicted the prediction, staying in, and Hydreigon ended up killing all 6 of my Pokemon. Let's quickly move on from that loss to week 3, where my Spiritomb was putting in a lot of work with Rest Sleep Talk and its Crest, giving it a 25% damage boost for each fainted foe, but then my opponent had the balls to set up against it with Reuniclus, which unbeknownst to me couldn't even hit my Dark type. I only found it out after I had sacked both my Manaphy and Aurorus, so even though Spiritomb did eventually threaten out the Psychic Blob, I wasn't in a great spot, and yet again I lost to overpredicting. The Spectre that got sent out next would take a lot of damage from Shadow Sneak, but I thought this was a setup to bait me into hitting the Ferrothor with a contact move so its Iron Barbs would finish me off. I switched out, but they stayed in, revealing they had their own Rest Sleep Talk Ghost type, which put in a lot of work as well, and although my Choice Scarf Buzzwole managed to take it down, I was now locked into Stone Ash, so my fate was sealed. With 1 win and 2 losses, I needed to get back on the victory train if I wanted to end up in the top 8 to make playoffs. However, despite me having a clear advantage against my next opponent since they replaced someone without knowing anything about fields, that overconfidence also caused my downfall. My Tapu Koko had a near perfect sweeper set with a Prism skill to give it a speed boost and make it water type, Calm Mind to stock up on more boosts, and stored power to capitalize on those. Almost nothing could stop it here, except for Clear Smog Among Us getting rid of my boosts. The underwater field also made it so Mega Charizard-wise Drought failed to set up the sun, leaving Weather Ball as a useless normal type move. So later, when it was Bronzong against Charizard, I thought it was safe to stay in and go for a Rock Slide, but my opponent busted out Flamethrower as a secondary fire attack, assuming Weather Ball would have worked in the first place. This really stung, freeing up the Choice Scarf Galarian Darmanitan, which together with that annoying Among Us cleaned up my remaining Pokemon. So now I, the champion of the Chromatic Draft League Season 1, was 1-3 in this third installment. I mainly joined this league to mess around with funny field effects, but still, I was not gonna miss out on playoffs. I may have kept using dumb sets, but from now on I was not underestimating anyone and especially not over-predicting. Hopefully. With that terrible attempt at an epic monologue out of the way, let's continue laughing at my terrible attempts to sweep within week 5 a physical Curse Mega Venusaur. This honestly could have worked if I didn't get burned or if my opponent didn't have Hone Claws Metagross and flinched me, but it was funny nonetheless and I had some actually viable sets to back it up. Cinderace picked off a couple Pokemon, and although it surprisingly got walled by a Gloom, my Tapu Koko could clean up at the end with Nature Power, turning into Judgment because of the field, which thanks to the Icicle Plate became an Ice-type attack to one-shot the Gloom, and Conventional easily went down as well. Next up on the list of big old sweep fails is an attempt of setting up with Tail Low Manaphy against a Choice Specs Overheat Blacephalon, but the opposing Serena had a Choice Scarf to boost its speed, so it didn't get a single hit off. Still, I wasn't playing this too poorly, making some decent predictions to get some good damage on the Garchomp, which then got walled by my Air Balloon Tapu Koko. I couldn't get off another Calm Mind sweep here though, because of yet again that Choice Scarf Serena, and moments later their Celesteela was threatening to sweep me instead. Usually when you see Autotomize you can expect a Power Herb Meteor Beam set, so Yawn and Protect on Kangaskhan let me easily deal with it, and it was looking like my bulk up Cinderace could sweep from here. But if there's a way to lose, I will find it. First I got crit with a knockoff, ignoring my defense boost, and then the 90% accurate Pyro Ball missed. This eventually put me in a scary situation against the +1 Choice Specs Fire Blast Blacephalon, which could one-shot all of my Pokemon if it got lucky enough. It was roughly a 50-50 chance to Oko Kangaskhan, and it barely hung on, allowing it to do big damage with a scrappy return. Even if the second Fire Blast didn't miss, Tapu Koko could have outsped and finished it, but I wasn't out of the woods just yet. I thought my physical Landorus could deal with the Autonote, but it busted out Ice Beam. What ensued was a 20-turn long Calm Mind war where, although I had the advantage of Autonote getting paralyzed by Discharge, I had to make sure Tapu Koko was always healthy enough in case he switched to Serena for Power Whip. Eventually, Lady Luck chose my side, letting Tapu Koko land a critical hit to kill an Autonote, and that Serena was just shy of the kill, so Tapu Koko pulled through and won me this insanely close battle. That was a lot of fun, but sometimes it's also nice to just go back to a not so butt-clenching Calm Mind sweep. Although it took some time to find the right opportunity, Tapu Koko could eventually pretty easily set up since this week's field made it so Calm Mind boost special defense by 2 stages, and after 3 Calm Minds I was ready to sweep since not even the Deoxys speed could stop me, since the field also made it so Tapu Koko's Telepathy gave it a 50% speed boost, getting me the 3rd win in a row. At this point, with a 4-3 record and only 3 weeks remaining, I was pretty confident I would remain in the top 8 out of 12, so it's time for some even crazier sets. This next battle was against someone I knew was a great player, so this was sure to be an interesting fight. Gotta be honest, I wasn't playing all too well here, sacking my Landorus to Melmetal for no reason, but luckily I have my amazing Buzzwole to cover for that with Dynamic Punch? Also, that did a lot more to Sylveon than I expected. What's up with the... Okay, that explains it. On this field, Hyper Beam is more similar to like Overheat or Leaf Storm, so it didn't have the recharge turn, but by Mega Evolving Venusaur, it got just enough extra bulk to live another hit and heal back up. I then also threw away my Tapu Koko for no reason against a Choice Band Weavile. Yeah, I'm playing amazingly. Luckily I have my amazing Buzzwole to cover for that with Dynamic Punch, and there we go, it misses, activating the Blunder Policy, letting me outspeed all opposing Pokemon. Both Weavile and Circuitry went down, but sadly both took passive damage, so Buzzwole didn't get any attack boost from Beast Boost, and Dynamic Punch missed against the Melmetal, which then killed my Buzzwole, and Manaphy just barely couldn't pull through, but even though I lost this game, it was an amazing spectacle of a battle. For the next week, the Field Gods gifted me yet another great tool for a Calm Mind sweep with Tapu Koko, the Gold Bottle Cap. Under Dragon's Den, it gives the holder a +2 critical hit ratio, resulting in every move being a coin flip for critting or not. Combine this with my opponent's only electric resist being weak to Fairy, and this was an easy 6-0 sweep. With only one battle remaining in the regular season, I went all out with crazy sets here, especially since I was already guaranteed to get into playoffs. For example, I brought Fling Lightball Buzzwolf to paralyze something, in this case the Choice Band Arcanine. I of course also brought Dildo Manaphy because it's just so good, and although the Alolan Ninetales killed it with a Hyper Beam, this gave me an amazing opportunity to use Landorus. Sludge Wave took down the Fairy type on its recharge turn, and Gliscor got sent out next. A quick look at Landorus' moveset might make you believe I have nothing for this Gliscor, but I came prepared with something I'm very proud of, Weather Ball. Since Ninetales set up the hill, this became a quad effective Ice type move to one-shot the Gliscor. The Galarian Slowking still managed to survive an attack, putting me in range of Arcanine's extreme speed, and since this field gives everything Pixelate, turning normal moves into fairy moves, I still almost lost this fight, but the paralysis came in clutch and I finished the regular season with a 6-4 record and +16 differential. Now that we're done with the first 10 weeks, it's time for playoffs. A single elimination bracket tournament with the top 8 competitors with as my first opponent in quarterfinals my opponents from week 1. This time I wouldn't get to use a +1 speed Kangaskhan, but instead we had another interesting field in Snowy Peaks. This made it so Auroraville can get set up without hail and last for 8 turns, and although I got rid of the puny dinosaur that set it up, next came out Heatran. I scouted out what he would use with Protect, and after seeing Eruption I assumed it was either like a Choice Scarf or a Choice Spec set, which would give me an easy switch into Manaphy, but I got completely baited and got hit by a Power Herb Solar Beam for a near one-shot. I got off a Rain Dance, but that's all Manaphy could do here before it went down. One Earth Power from Landorus was more than enough to get rid of the Heatran, and next up was Urshifu. Since Landorus had big sweeping potential, I switched into my physically bulky Buzzwole to deal with the opposing fighting type, but then I saw Bulk Up. This immediately got me worried since Urshifu could also potentially run Acrobatics, and if this also had Substitute, this could just sweep me. Luckily it didn't, so I got off a Toxic, making it just a matter of time before they went down. It did have Acrobatics, but since its Salac Berry hadn't activated yet, it was only 55 base power, which wasn't enough for the kill, and one final Protect let Buzzwole successfully stall. I forgot about Unseen Fist letting Urshifu hit through Protect. Well, at least Urshifu went down and I could now use my less puny dinosaur to set up my own 8th turn Auroraville, letting Landorus set up Calm Mind and Rock Polish against the Tapu Lele, and since this time I did not forget to give it Sheer Force, it finished off the last 2 opponents to get me to semi-finals. This one was a rematch against my week 3 opponent who I lost against last time, but this time I came but not really well prepared. I didn't have a lot of confidence, but let's do this. The first couple turns went amazingly. I led Landorus against the expected Mega Camerupt, allowing me to get up Stealth Rocks on the switch, after which the Tornado Starion missed the Hurricane, and on turn 3 we simultaneously switched into Latios and Aurorus. The former got immediately swapped out for Ferrothorn, which was exactly what I wanted, since getting some good chip damage on this could free up Manaphy a lot. I decided to gamble a bit and stay in with Aurorus for a second hit, which worked out because he just set up spikes, but then I had to swap out and in the following turns both Cinderace and Spiritomb went down. Still, I had gotten quite some chip damage across their team, and after a U-turn from Landorus, Aurorus was in a pretty good position to sweep actually. After doubling my speed with Rock Polish, I used Meteor Beam to get a special attack boost as well, which then let me just barely kill the Ferrothorn. The one issue was this Mega Camerupt. I had a very small chance to kill this here, but I decided to not risk it and instead save my Aurorus. I swapped in Manaphy, which had Energy Ball to then take care of the Gastrodon, and then came in a big problem from our first battle, Spectrier. This time I had a specially defensive Murkrow to wall it, so he of course swapped out, and now I had to deal with the Mega Camerupt again. Surprisingly, it busted out Stealth Rock this late in the game, so Manaphy safely got in and could finally get rid of the Camel, bringing out Spectrier yet again. So I went into Murkrow yet again, healed back up, and then revealed that this little bird had Perishong and Mean Luke. This trapped in the opposing Big Bird, and on the final turn of Perish Song I saved my Murkrow by switching into Auroras while Tornadus went down, leaving only Spectrier. Yes, I had to sack Auroras, but I had my trusty Murkrow which could easily stall it out. I just had to heal up. Perish, oh shit. Perish I did. Taunt made it so I couldn't use any status moves, and that's all I had. Landorus wasn't any help either, so Spectrier finished me off, and that marked the end of my journey in this league. I stranded in semifinals, losing to the person who went on to... Yeah, at this point they haven't played finals yet, so I don't know. Let's go over what went wrong there. Not just to learn from this battle, it's not like I'm very upset about it, but also just to pad the video length so it's not as obvious that I lost in semifinals. First of all, this was one of the few weeks I didn't bring Teal'c Manaphy, and it would have been amazing. I was afraid of Ferrothorn and unaware Clefable, but I probably could have chipped those down to let Manaphy sweep like I did for Auroras here. Speaking of which, I should have just stayed in with that against the Camerupt. Non-boosted Auroras couldn't do much anymore, and even if Hyper Voice didn't get the kill, it would have helped out a lot since Camerupt would have been practically dead and Manaphy would still be fully healthy. This would have allowed it to potentially deal with the Spectrier and avoid a lot of trouble there. For the rest, I didn't play perfectly, but I'm not going to nitpick every small misplay since overall I'm pretty happy with how I played most of this battle and most of the season, especially since this was mainly just to have fun. Please let me know your opinion about this video in the comments, since I'm trying something new here and it would help a lot to get some feedback. I used to make a lot of draft videos, but then separate ones about individual battles, and now I'm trying one video about the entire thing instead to focus more on the journey than all the nitty-gritty technical details of prep and play. If you're interested in that, I have a bunch of unlisted playlists of my old draft videos, and if I end up making another video like this, I'll see if I can fine-tune the concept a bit more. But that's gonna be it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video, I'll see you next time, and of course, stay alive.